selecting soft edge objects using Select and Mask. In this tutorial, we will learn about how we can select different soft-edged objects using Select and Mask. So, to select a soft-edged image like this dog, we'll use the Quick Select tool. But before we do anything, we are going to modify the edge using the Select and Mask feature. In this case, we need to desaturate the color of the background to let the dog can stand out a little more as the main subject. And to achieve that, all we have to do is tap the W key, which selects the Quick Select tool. And we need to set it to the first icon here to make our selection. Now we will click and drag over the dog area to select the image, and we will notice that once we release the cursor, Photoshop will automatically change to the Add to selection for us. So we continue to select all the parts of the image, which is the dog, and try not to select all the parts, not the dog. It can be a bit tricky in areas where there is a bit of fur. We don't want to over-select, so we don't want to select this area here. We'll just hold down the Alt key, and that switches us to the Subtract option from Selection, so we can get rid of that and make sure that we have not selected anything in the foreground. Alright, now let's choose Select and Mask. On the left hand side, we have a number of tools. We don't always have to select an object before we enter this Selection Mask task space. We can just select the object after we enter this space too. It's just convenient sometimes to select the image before we enter the space. Anyways, we'll notice that there are the same tools. We have got our Quick Select tool, Tool Brush, and the Lasso tool here. If we look at the right side, we can see a number of different view modes. Right now, we are on onion skin, and we can use the transparency slider to see either more of the background or less of it. We will now enable edge detection. We can move the radius to the right, which tells Photoshop exactly how many pixels to look at along the outer edge of the selection. We will enable the Smart Radius option so that the edges are adapted automatically based on the content of the image. We will add some more hair around the edges of the dog. So, after selecting the Refined Edges tool, we will click and simply paint around the edges. We will now move down a little and make sure that Photoshop knows that the areas have a lot of little hairs so that the refined edges reflect it. We will move on to the tail area and do the same to pick up any of the little hairs we missed to select. Now, before proceeding further, we will make sure to look at the image in black and white mode so that we can have a better look at the image. We will now select black and white and zoom in using Windows +1 command. And we can see that all this particular area should not have been selected. It should not be semi-transparent. So, we will now switch to the paint brush. We will add it to the selection and we will paint it in white. Now, we will select all this area. We will select it all manually, refining our selection. We will refine a bit up over here and even near the paw. We will hold the space bar and move to the tail area. As we can see, the Refine Edge tool did a pretty good job in refining the mask around the little hairs. Alright, let us now go back to the onion skin mode and scroll down to see a number of global refinement options that we can use. It is common to use these with hard-edged objects, not furry-edged objects like dogs or other animals. Below that, we now have output settings, where we can choose what we want to output to like, a selection, a layer mask, or even a new layer. In this case, we will simply output to a selection and click on Invert, as we do not want to select the dog, only the background. We will click OK and see that just the background has been selected, just like we wanted it. This makes it very simple to add an adjustment layer. We will select Hue and Saturation and then rename it to Desaturate Background. We will click OK and move on to the Saturation slider and desaturate the background. As we have seen, the Quick Select tool and the Select and Mask feature make it quite easy to select something, like the dog in this example, and restrict it and make sure our changes apply only to the background.